Lynas is a rare earth plant project, and we felt strongly that they should actually do the processing back in Australia. There's a lot of places in Australia where they can actually do it. Put it this way, from Mount Weld to the place in the port, in between there's a lot of empty spaces in that 1,320 kilometers where they can actually do the processing nearer to the port, nearer to the distance, and it's actually even nearer to China where they're actually shipping the rare earth too. So there's really no need for them to actually establish a plant in Pahang, Gibing, Malaysia, and we felt strongly that Lynas should bring the plant back to Australia.
Malaysians here in Perth is actually angry about it too, because on the Australian side they seem to be helping out in this export of the ore, despite the approval, which is actually 14 years old.
Yeah, I don't think it should go to Malaysia if they don't want it there, because it's an issue of consent and public license to operate, and they don't have that. They just don't have the social license to do that in Kuantan.
This should be an Australian issue because the product from Lynas is going to be refined in Malaysia, and it's very important that Australians realise that the product of our mining industry we have to take responsibility for, and it's not good enough for us to make profits out of mining this material and refining it in Malaysia and not take responsibility for the environmental and human consequences.
I think that Australia has a moral obligation to where we are sending materials that we mine, whether that be uranium, rare earth, coal or whatever. We can't just send this stuff off our shores and wipe our hands clean of it. We need to look at the environmental and social effects of the communities where these products end up.
I think because we're exporting a problem to Malaysia, so the rare earths are from Western Australia in our sort of interior from Mount Weld, and they're radioactive materials. So with any product that Australia is selling, then I think we need to be talking and at least listening to the concerns from the people where it's going. So the people in Malaysia have, they've said they don't want it, and we really need to think about why we would impose that on them. But it's an environmental issue for us here as well, because with a lot of mining, it's really water intensive and has a lot of ecological damage to the local environment. So yeah, we've also got those concerns here, and the transportation of the rare earths it's about 600 kilometres from the mine site to Fremantle, and the way that they're shipping that material is the same way that they shipped lead from Magellan, and we've seen that failed and we had lead contamination, and they're planning to ship it in exactly the same way, so we're concerned also about local contamination of radioactive materials.
Well, Australians like me are involved because we realise we do have a responsibility. I'm a councillor at the City of Fremantle and I'm very passionate about making the people of Fremantle realise that this product will be transported through our city and go to Kuantan. And we have to realise that what happens in our city can affect people in another city in Kuantan.
I think there's a lot of issues in Australia, and the world itself has become smaller, and we can't again just let Australia pollute the rest of the world. I think it's time that we stand up as Australian citizens and protect not only our backyards but the rest of the world as well.
On Tuesday, there's a group here that's actually submitting an appeal to the Environmental Protection Agency to review this approval. Much has changed since the approval 14 years ago, and hopefully we can take a different angle and ensure that it's not only the Malaysians in Malaysia is actually taking action. Malaysian in Perth is taking action and seeking an overview and a review of the approval.
So on Tuesday, Australian activists, including Marcus, you'll hear from Marcus, they're going to be lodging an appeal with our Environmental Protection Agency, contesting the grounds upon which Lynas got approval to mine and transport the thorium and other heavy metals in Australia.
Next Tuesday, I work for the Anti-Nuclear Alliance of Western Australia, and we've been talking with the EDO, the Environmental Defenders Office, and through the lawyers there and with the Anti-Nuclear Alliance of Western Australia, we're lodging a referral to the EPA, the Environmental Protection Authority, on Tuesday to reopen the Lynas case, because the approvals that were given to Lynas were given 14 years ago, and their operations have changed over those years, their mining processes and the amount of substances that they want to transport through Fremantle and export to Malaysia. So we're putting in a referral to the EPA for that to be opened up again. There needs to be a whole new environmental impact statement made and a whole new management plan put forward by Lynas. They can't just keep operating on approvals given 14 years ago.
Look, frankly, I think it's disgraceful for an Australian company to think that it can move its refining operations to Malaysia to take advantage of lower wages and health and safety conditions and poorer environmental safeguards. That is not acceptable. If Lynas thinks that this product can be mined and should be mined and refined, then they should do it in Australia, to Australian conditions and standards, not impose it on the people of Malaysia, where we know perfectly well that Malaysian people don't have the same freedom of speech and the same democratic rights that we have in Australia to demand high environmental standards.
I would just like to tell Lynas,
Stop Lynas, save Malaysia.
to get out from Malaysia. Malaysia is not a toxic dumping ground for you. This is a call from a Malaysian in Western Australia. We know what you are doing. We know all your lies.
Lynas, the people of Malaysia want you to come back to Australia.
Get out from the country now.
Stop Lynas! Save Malaysia!